The United Nations is out with another report on Israel that is being condemned as biased and one-sided. This one, released by the Human Rights Council, looks into the war between Israel and Hamas in May of 2021. After last year's 11-day war, the UN Human Rights Council established a commission to investigate the conflict, although its mandate went much broader.
It's unprecedented in terms of scope, in terms of geographic location, and most significantly in terms of timing. It's meant to look at the root causes of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict stemming from the war last May, but it is something that can go back to before 1948 when Israel was established and in perpetuity into the future as well.
The 18-page report delves into the overall Israeli-Palestinian conflict and concludes by placing the blame on Israel. It states that the findings and recommendations relevant to the underlying root causes were overwhelmingly directed towards Israel, and the report therefore reflects this. It cites Israel's so-called occupation as a major cause, specifically finding the Israeli policy and practices of establishing settlements in the occupied Palestinian territory, including East Jerusalem, have no legal validity and constitute a flagrant violation under international law and a major obstacle to peace. Even though Hamas and other terror groups fired more than 4,000 rockets into Israel, the report cites Hamas only 3 times and Israel 157. There is also no mention of Iran, which funded and armed Hamas during the war.
We love Hamas! We love Hamas!
At the Geneva UN headquarters, Israeli attorney Nitzana Darshan-Leitner led a demonstration against the report.
To come and expose the real face of the Human Rights Council of the UN, compare them to not other but terrorists. In the end of the day, both the UN Council and the terror organization have the same goal: to destroy the state of Israel. The UN is using diplomatic means, fake reports, blood libels, and the terror organization using military means, terror attacks and missiles against Israel.
Darshan-Leitner says the Council has 10 agendas, and one is devoted just to Israel. Its commission of inquiry is unique among all other UN bodies, since it's mandated to release an annual report on the Jewish state.
Human Rights Council is obsessively going after Israel. This is not the first time. Actually, from their very first day, they have an Agenda 7 that requires them to discuss Israel in every meeting they have. There are hundreds of countries in the world. Half of them, more than half, violates human rights, and yet they have to discuss Israel in each and every hearing they have. So we know that this body is totally anti-Israel.
They want to essentially employ what is a form of lawfare, using international law as a political means to delegitimize and attack the state of Israel.
The International Legal Forum, along with 25 other organizations, released a report singling out the head of the commission.
Navi Pillay has already accused Israel of apartheid, of war crimes, of crimes against humanity, and this is the woman that is meant to be adjudicating our supposed guilt or innocence. In any Western court of law, if you're a judge, you would never have been appointed in the first place, or you would have to recuse yourself over this kind of impartiality. But at the UN, you get rewarded for anti-Semitism and hostility against Israel.
The report is expected to be voted on by the UN General Assembly during its fall session, whether to accept or reject the report. And it may be sent to the International Criminal Court.